The Man Who Connected Worlds by Judith Okech. Before I came to know Arnold as my husband, I came to understand the soil he came from, and at the center of that foundation was his father, Alfayo Okech. He lived in a time when communication was not instant. There were no mobile phones, no email, no digital systems. If a message needed to travel, it moved through hands, through systems, through structure. And at the center of that structure were men like Alfayo. As head postmaster in East Africa, he served across Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania during a period when the postal system was not just a service, it was infrastructure. The post office was where families received letters from sons working in distant cities, government directives moved between regions, money orders were sent to support households, examination results, job offers, and official notices were delivered. To be head postmaster in that era was to oversee the movement of information, money, and trust. It required organization, accountability, precision leadership. Postal systems were linked to railways, road transport, early aviation routes. Mail had to be sorted, tracked, and delivered across borders. Delays mattered. Errors mattered. Because behind every letter was a person waiting. And Alfayo understood that. His role placed him in a position of high responsibility within a growing East Africa, a region moving through late colonial administration into independence and early nation building. He traveled, often, across countries, sometimes beyond, because the system he was part of did not stop at one location. And yet, even as he moved across borders, he built something stable at home. He lived with his wife, Trufena Awor, Nyaga Asalo, in Upper Hill, Nairobi. At that time, Upper Hill was not what it is today. It was not a commercial district. It was a residential area for senior civil servants and professionals. Orderly, structured, close to the center of government and administration. It reflected a certain level of responsibility, a life of discipline, a life connected to national service. But Alfayo made a decision that defined his family. Even though he lived in Nairobi, he chose to have his children raised and educated in their ancestral home, Alego. Alego, in Siaya, was, and remains, a place of deep cultural grounding, a place where community shapes the individual identity is tied to land and lineage. Discipline is reinforced not just by parents, but by society. Education in such places was not just academic. It was formational. Children learned responsibility, respect, resilience. Alfayo believed that his children needed that foundation, because while cities provide opportunity, it is often the village that provides identity. Together, he and Nyaga Asalo raised 8 children: George Joyce Arnold, David Sammy Atieno, Rose, Adiambo, Judith, Akoth, Violet. And in that structure, each parent played a role that mattered. Alfayo, the provider, the disciplinarian, the standard setter; Trufena Awor, Nyaga Asalo, the constant, the nurturer, the one who held the home together when he was away. She ensured the children were cared for, the household remained stable, the values of the home were maintained daily. Because while Alfayo's work took him across regions, her presence ensured the family did not drift. Together, they created a system, not by speaking about it, but by living it. Their children were raised with discipline, education, structure, expectation, and that foundation carried forward. You can see it clearly in Arnold, the way he valued education, the way he sat with his children, the way he approached responsibility. These were not habits he picked up later. They were patterns he inherited. Alfayo Okech passed away in 1984, but what he built did not end there. Many years later, in 2018, Nyaga Asalo also passed on, and yet the family remains. With the exception of Arnold, their children are still here, living, working, building, each carrying a part of that original structure, each extending what began before them, because legacy is not what one person leaves behind, it is what continues to live through many. When I look at that family, I do not just see names, I see intention, I see discipline, I see a man who understood systems and built one at home, a man who connected nations through communication and grounded his family through structure, and beside him, a woman who ensured that structure held, and from that came generations. And the story is still unfolding.